Hey Year 7, welcome back to another online math lesson on Mathematics. We're starting off with a riddle to help warm up your brains. What is the next letter in this pattern? So we've got O, T, T, F, F, S, S, E, N. And I want you to think about what letter would come next. If you think you have an idea, put it down in the comments and I'll let you know if you are correct or not. Okay, to get us in a mood for some fractions, here are some flashback questions from the last couple of lessons. Hit pause and see how many of these you can remember how to solve. Okay, here we go. So for the first one, we have a pair of equivalent fractions. So the way we solve these is we say, well, 2 is turning into 12 by multiplying by 6. Okay, so because the tops are multiplying by 6, we're going to multiply the bottom by 6, and 5 6s are 30. So 2 out of 5 is equivalent to 12 out of 30. For question B, we're simplifying the fraction. These ones are a bit easier when the number on top and bottom are both even numbers, because you can just chop them in half. Half of 12 will be 6, and half of 32 will be 16. Once again, we have even numbers, so let's cut them in half once more, and we have 3 over 8 as our fully simplified fraction. You could have got there in one hit by saying that a common factor of 12 and 32 is 4. 12 is 3 4s and 32 is 8 4s. So if you're really clever, you can sometimes get there just in one jump. Okay, for question C, when we're adding or subtracting and the denominator is the same number, we're going to keep it as the same number and we're going to subtract the tops. So 11 minus 6 is 5. The base is still 15. We should always try and simplify our answers if we can. So 5 out of 15 can be simplified to 1 out of 3. And for D, they're a bit trickier when the denominators are not the same number. We looked at a couple methods last lesson, one of which is called the fraction fish, where we draw these lines to help us memorize or help remember which numbers we need to multiply. So first things first, we're going to do 4 times 5 on the bottom to get 20. We're going to do 5 times 1 to get 5. We're going to have a plus, and then 4 times 2 is 8. And now we're just tidy it up, and we have 13 out of 20 as our final answer. Okay, so now we know how to add and subtract fractions. The next logical step is to learn how to multiply and divide them. So there is your heading for today. We're going to start off with a question. It's a true or false question. And here we go. The question is 2 out of 3 multiplied by 4 out of 5. Will the answer to this be 8 out of 15? Okay, so can we just do 2 times 4 is 8 and 3 times 5 is 15? It almost seems too good to be true, yeah? It's just so simple. Just multiply the tops, multiply the bottoms. But that is actually true. That's how we multiply fractions. It is actually that convenient. Okay, so for the first part of the lesson, we're going to look at multiplying fractions, and that's how we do it. It's nice and straightforward. So for your notes, can you put down for me that when we want to multiply two fractions, we're going to multiply the numerators together, and we're going to multiply the denominators together. So we'll do another example. So if we wanted to do 2 out of 5 multiplied by 3 out of 7, well, on the top, we're going to do 2 times 3. And on the bottom, we're going to do 5 times 7. And then we get our answer. So 2 3s are 6, 5 7s are 35, and there is our answer. Okay? So adding and subtracting fractions is not very straightforward sometimes, but multiplying, it really is as easy as it could possibly be. Just multiply the tops and multiply the bottoms. Okay, you guys have a go at these questions by yourself, just following what I did in that example on the previous slide. Hit pause and have a go at yourself. C is a bit of a challenge question if you remember what this little 2 here means. See how you go. Okay, for the first one, so on the top, we're going to do 1 times 5 is 5. And on the denominator, we're going to do 6 times 3 is 18. And there's our answer, 5 out of 18. For question B, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do 3 times 4 on the top, so we get 12, and on the bottom, we get 10 times 5. Okay, that's a correct answer, but as I've mentioned a couple times, a good habit to try and get into is to try to simplify your answers. So we can write 12 out of 15, we can cut the top and bottom in half, and write 6 out of 25 as a fully simplified answer. Okay, sometimes that last step can get you an extra mark on a test, which is always good. Okay, for C, this little 2 at the top, this is what we call squared, and this tells us that we are multiplying the number by itself. So 4 out of 8 squared is 4 out of 8 multiplied by 4 out of 8. So 4 4s are 16 and 8 8s are 64. So there is our answer. Now we're going to simplify that fraction. So we can chop them in half again. Half of 16 is 8. Half of 64 is 32. And that works out to be 1/4. Because on top we have 1 lot of 8 and on the bottom we have 4 lots of 8. We could have got to our answer there of 1/4 in a bit of a quicker way. We could have started by simplifying rather than simplifying at the end. So a simpler way of writing 4 out of 8 would be 1 out of 2, or a half. And then if we do 1 over 2 times 1 over 2, we'll get 1 out of 4. So for a question like that, it's probably smarter to simplify before you do the squared to save yourself a bit of work. Okay, so that's how we multiply two fractions. Now we're going to take a look at how we multiply a fraction with a whole number. Okay, there's a neat little trick to it. All you've got to recognize is for a question like A, where we're doing 1/3 multiplied by 3, all we need to do is write this 3 as a 3 over 1. Okay, so any whole number can be written as a fraction with the bottom number, the denominator, being 1. So 3 over 1 is the same as 3. Now that we've written that as a fraction, now it makes it easier to know what to multiply where. So we're going to do 1 times 3 on the top, which gets us 3. And on the bottom, we're going to do 3 times 1, which is also 3. We can simplify our answer because 3 out of 3 is 1 whole. So there is our answer. Okay, another way we could have done this is 1/3 multiplied by 3 is kind of like you're saying what is a third of 3? And the answer is 1. Okay, question B, we're doing 2/5 multiplied by 10. Once again, our trick is we're going to write the 10 as a 10 over 1. Now for the tops, we're going to do 2 times 10 to get 20. And on the bottom, we'll do 5 times 1. So there's our answer, 20 over 5. What's another way of writing 20 over 5? Well, 5 fills up 20 4 times. So 20 over 5 is actually 4 wholes, or just 4. Okay, and once again, 4 is the answer to 2/5 of 10. It's 2/5 of 10. For question C, and once more, we're going to write our 12 as a fraction. So we're going to put a 1 on the bottom. So we're doing 12 over 1 multiplied by 3 out of 4. On the top, we'll get 3 12s, which makes 36. And on the bottom, we'll have 4 times 1. Now again, we'll say how many times does the bottom number go into the top number? So 4 goes into 36 9 times because 4 9s are 36. So the answer here is just 9 whole numbers, or 9, which is 3/4 of 12, which is another way of looking at it. Okay, sweet. Up next, just some more work on fraction of a quantity, because these are really common maths problems that we need to solve. Questions like, what is 1/4 of the quantity 28? So if we want to find what 1/4 of 28 is, we're going to split 28 into 4 even quarters. Okay, so if you split 28 into 4, or if you did 28 divided by 4, you would get an answer of 7. Okay, 7 plus 7 plus 7 plus 7 is equal to 28. So it's 1/4. All right. For question B, we're going to find 3/4 of 28. So in part A, we figured out that 1/4 of 28 is 7. What if we wanted 3/4? Well, it means we want 3 of these. We want 3 7s. Okay, so we're going to do 3 lots of 1/4, which is 7, gets us an answer of 21. Okay, so 1/4 of 28 is 7, so 3/4 must be 21. Okay, for question C, we're going to follow a pretty similar process. We want to find 2/3 of 36. So a good place to start is let's find what 1/3 of 36 is. So if we divided 36 by 3 to split it into 3 equal parts, we would get 12. 12 plus 12 plus 12 is 36. All right, so 1/3 of 36 is 12. So to find 2/3, we just need to double this and we get an answer of 24. So 1/3 is 12 and 2/3 is 24. Okay, similar for question D, we're going to first off figure out, so we're trying to find what 6/5 of 40 is. First thing we should do is figure out what 1/5 of 40 is, and then we just want to do 6 lots of that number. So 1/5 of 40, we're going to divide 40 by 5, and we get an answer of 8. Okay, 5 times 8 is 40. Now 8 is 1/5 of 40, so to find 6/5, we've got to take our 8 and we've got to do 6 lots of it. So multiply it by 6, and we get 48 as our answer. Okay, 1/5 is 8, and 6/5 is 48. Okay, beautiful. That's enough multiplying. Let's finish off the video by looking at how we would actually do a division of two fractions. Okay, it's similar. It's pretty straightforward. There's just a small trick to it that you got to be aware of. So we're going to start off by looking at a question. We have 6 divided by a half. Now, if you're a bit rusty with your divisions, when we're dividing, we're kind of saying how many times does this second number fit into the first number. So 6 divided by a half is like saying how many halves fit into 6 wholes. Let's have a look. Here is 6 whole pieces. Let's cut them into halves. And how many halves do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So a half fits into 6 wholes 12 times. What we also see is that if I instead turn that fraction upside down and I did 6 multiplied by 2 over 1 instead of divided by 1 over 2. So if I did this instead, well, 2 over 1 is the same thing as 2, yeah? And what's 6 times 2? What do you know? You get the same thing. So what I'm trying to say here, sorry if I confuse you, all I'm trying to say here is that 6 divided by a half gets you the same answer as 6 times 2 over 1. Okay, so the great reveal here is that if you want to divide by a fraction, all you've got to do is turn the fraction upside down and then multiply, which is super easy. So there is our trick, okay? We're going to write that down. To divide two fractions, we flip the second fraction, not the first fraction. We always flip the second fraction and then we multiply. So we'll do a quick example. If we wanted to figure out 3/4 divided by 2/5, like I said, we're going to take the second fraction, which is the 2/5. We're going to turn it upside down to turn it into 5 over 2. Now that divided by turns into a times, and as we've already seen in this video, multiplying fractions is pretty straightforward. All we need to do now is 3 times 5 for the top and 4 times 2 for the bottom. So we get 15 over 8 as our answer. Okay, so that's how you do it. Flip the second and multiply. Let's have a go at some practice questions to help build some confidence. If that made sense to you, you can pause and have a go at these 3 by yourself. Otherwise, you can watch and learn. Okay, for question A, like we said, we're going to divide two fractions. So we're going to take the second fraction, we're going to flip it upside down, and we're going to multiply. So I'm going to rewrite the question as 1 over 5 multiplied by 3 over 1. Okay, now we do 1 times 3 on the top and 5 times 1 on the bottom. So on the top we'll get 3, on the bottom we'll get 5. For question B, again, same process. Dividing by a fraction means we're going to multiply and flip. So we have 4 over 9 multiplied by 3 over 2. Flip and multiply. All right. All right, so we're going to do 4 times 3 on the top, so we're going to get 12. And on the bottom, we'll do 9 times 2, so we'll get 18. 12 out of 18. What's a better way of writing 12 out of 18? Well, the top is 2 6s and the bottom is 3 6s. So this is actually 2/3. Okay, and for C, we're going to flip the second 6 out of 10. So we'll have 6 out of 10 multiplied by 10 out of 6. On the top, we'll get 60, and on the bottom, we'll get 60 as well. And what's a better way of writing 60 out of 60? Well, that is just one whole number. Which makes sense because anything divided by itself should always be 1. This is like saying how many times does 6/10 fit into 6/10? It fits exactly once. Okay, to finish off today's lesson, we've got a couple of optional challenge questions if you found the questions in this video a bit easy. So if you like a challenge, pause and have a go at these 2 for me, and I'm about to go through the solutions, so I don't want to spoil it for you. Okay, for question, the first one on the left-hand side, the trick to this question is that you've got to be aware of your order of operations. So we're not going to add these 2 fractions first because we've got to do the multiplication before we do the addition. So first thing we need to do is 1/2 times 2/5. So the way we do that is we do 1 times 2 is 2 over 2 times 5 is 10. So the second 2 fractions work out to be 2 out of 10. Now we want to add the 2 fractions together. So as we know from last lesson, we need to make the number on the bottom the same. So the way we can fix that is we can take the second fraction and we can double the top and double the bottom. So we have 20 on our denominator. So if we double 2, we get 4, double 10, we get 20. Now we've got the same base, we can add them together and we get 7 out of 20. Well done if you got the same thing. And over on the right, we've got a fraction divided by a fraction multiplied by a fraction. All right, so all we've got to do here is keep in mind that when we divide and multiply, because they're in the same sort of level in order of operations, we just go from left to right. So first thing we'll do is dividing these two fractions, which means we need to turn this 6/7 upside down and turn it into a multiply. So we get 3/10 multiplied by 7/6 and then times by 2/3. All right, you can do these all in one hit, or you can go step by step, which is what I'm going to do. First thing is 3 times 7 is 21, over 10 times 6 is 60. So the first two fractions turn into 21 out of 60. Now we'll multiply the top by 2 and the bottom by 3. So we'll get 42 out of 180, which is a very good answer, but bonus points if you actually simplified this to a final answer of 7 out of 60. Okay, well done if you tried those. There are some practice questions for everyone to try up on Google Classroom. Let me know if I can give you any more assistance, and thank you for watching this lesson. I'll see you later.